It is time for our next series here for Quake Pro League. It's going to be cha1n head-to-head against Strongsage.
Indeed. Interesting matchup, right? We've got two players from the Americas facing up against each other right now. We've seen Strongsage perform pretty well. Same goes for cha1n, right? He's had I'd say a middling season so far, but let's first talk about Strongsage, the man. First season within the Quake Pro League, making some waves. Currently 14th position, so towards the bottom of the leaderboard. But worth noting is that he has played significantly fewer games than I think literally anyone else in the league right now. And if we look at his results, you know, taking down Razy, beating Dramas, taking maps from cha1n, Zeneku, Avek, Strongsage obviously, truly is a contender for everyone to take seriously.
I just love to see it. I love to see, excuse me, the rise of players that haven't been around for years and years and years, and seeing the motivation there to kind of see how far you can go in this world of competitive Quake. And I guess this week is very much going to be just another one of those tests. Now, cha1n, on the other hand, is a player that has been around significantly longer in the competitive Quake space. cha1n has definitely had up and down performances. You know, he has had different journeys. And every week counts. A player like cha1n is always going to want to make sure that latest week goes as good as it can, right? Because it's stuff to build from. It's stuff that can help your own progression. We can see here, not the most successful of paths. However, plenty of 2-1 defeats, and that on its own is a building block. And you know, I honestly don't want to come across as patronizing the way I talk about that. It's just, at the end of the day, when you look at a series that hasn't gone your way, a 2-1 is more to build off than a clean sweep that you suffered. And we can see last week, able to get a 2-1 victory against Dramas, you know, of all players. Yeah, that's a great result to have at the same time. And being able to take out Strongsage this week, with Strongsage clearly showing elements of a very scary player, this is a great victory to achieve should cha1n secure it within the next half hour, 45 minutes or so.
I also just like cha1n's introspection. You know, after his previous loss, right before playing Dramas, he really went to Twitter and he was like, okay, I've digested this loss. I understand what went wrong. Sights once again set to the future, right? The first half of the season hasn't really gone my way, but now QuakeCon's approaching, ramping on the practice. He even at one point tweeted like, that was the last loss that I'll suffer. And so now he's really just looking forward. Positive mindset, working on his game, getting back into that top shape as we approach the finals. So on paper, I think a lot of people might look at this and say, well, Strongsage has been doing better as of late, but cha1n has been ramping up his efforts too.
It's a challenge, and that's what this show is going to be this week. We can look at the picks and bans, so we can find out what maps we're going to have and what champions are locked in. Corrupted Keep is going to be that first one with the Strog versus the Anarchy. Clutch, quite rightly so, has been removed from play, and that is a personal ban if I've ever seen one, and I am not surprised to see it come out against Strongsage. But then the next best thing. This is an element of Strongsage that we can grow to expect. If Clutch doesn't make it, Scale Bearer probably will, and that's exactly what happens on Veil. Final destination of Awoken, taking the Athena away from cha1n, a wonderful decision. And then the Nyx is the final pick there from cha1n. So, I mean, yeah, let's kind of weigh up what we're looking at here. Strongsage is going to have mobility and a bit more stack versus the light here that cha1n's going to have. Veil, very, very different story, right? We know cha1n has played on Veil tons. I think I've seen more cha1n maps on Veil than any other player in the Pro League to begin with. So we're going to take away the main pick, go in with the secondary, if that even counts as a secondary. And then an Awoken. Awoken's going to be a little bit more standard, I would assume. But I think these are some interesting matches that we're going to be seeing right now.
Couldn't agree more. Now, looking at the picks and bans, I would actually say that I favor Strongsage's picks and bans, generally speaking. Map 3 on Awoken, I think cha1n's better off with Nyx, because we know that she's one of the strongest picks, and well, the Visor doesn't really offer that much of a benefit because small map, piercing sight, you know, you should generally have a good idea of where your opponent is, plus they'll hear you use it. But maps 1 and 2, I mean, Corrupted Keep, Anarchy, he's mobile, he's fast, but so is Strog. And Strog has the benefit of having extra stack, plus he has the Peeker, where there's no real counterplay because the railgun is absent on the map. Map 2, you've said it yourself, right? If Strongsage doesn't get to play Clutch, he's gonna play Scalebearer. Scalebearer can be so powerful. cha1n picked, I think, the best counter, right? Ice him because you can drop down the turret, block his path, and just kind of nullify that bull rush ability, but still, I feel like Strongsage has the better picks, at least for maps 1 and 2.
And now, as always, it's time for predictions. Now, I'm going to be real. I think predictions on this map are a little bit tricky because we're looking at what could be a newly focused cha1n, a cha1n that has decided to really ramp up the practice, have a lot more focus going into these future weeks. And we know how devastating a concentrated cha1n is capable of being because we've seen that. Yes, it was a long time ago, it has to be said, but that talent is still in there within cha1n somewhere to be found, you know, because we've seen it before. So there's a lot of potentials this week because we know that Strongsage is up and coming, very, very scary, very hungry for success, gets involved in a lot of community activity. Anything that Strongsage can get his hands on, he's competing in. So this is a really up in the air series for me.
It is. Now, this is also the part, Ketchup, where usually I whip out the statistics and I go, well, they've played each other this often during the Quake Pro League, but yeah, this is a brand new matchup, a blank slate, the first time that Strongsage and cha1n go head-to-head within the Quake Pro League. So very little to go by historically. We're starting off on cha1n's point of view. He gets the heavy side of the map, which is the one that he was definitely hoping for. Being the light champion, he needs that armor more than Strongsage does.
We're having to be very, very careful at the beginning, mostly just due to lack of weaponry. When you're in that position and Tri-Bolt's all you've got, it can be a rather scary game to play. Understanding, though, that your opponent's going to have a super shotgun, so no need to jump right down, otherwise you're going to eat a direct point blank, and that's damage no one wants to have to deal with. Next set of items appear. In this case, the Mega is going to go in the favor of cha1n. Trade it off now as the Heavy for Strongsage, who's considerably more stacked here. I'm going to get a little bit more rocket ammo. Retreat back down. This inject is still locked and loaded. So this is an interesting game to play. cha1n has to be very careful with how he escapes here. There's going to be a lot of machine gun. And at this point, is it even worth the inject? Oh, we're out. See if we can get away without having to use it, because I really think that inject is going to matter a great deal with this next set of items here. And here it is.
Kind of wasted it, though. I mean, yeah, he gets that one extra point of health to his total stack, but other than that, I think cha1n used it kind of anticipating Strongsage sticking around and making a fight happen over the Mega, but no, Strongsage just went straight for the Heavy, so cha1n used that ability. He popped the inject to get himself all stacked up before the fight, but then he walked away completely unchallenged with the Mega anyways, so luckily for him, managed to secure some of those hourglasses. The ability is almost up again, but it's armor. That's what he sorely needs. He's gonna find a small one, 2 even. But that big prize, the Heavy, continues going in Strongsage favor now.
Got a huge amount from that Tri-Bolt, and I do think that is going to be the go-ahead for Strongsage. cha1n, caught on that side. That is not what you want to see happen. A Strongsage on the opposite end here. Definitely looking pretty good, in a good position for this Mega, of which he takes it and secures a frag at the same time. Is that going to be enough time to take the Heavy, though? Yeah, looking likely. Doesn't look like cha1n spawns anywhere near it.
cha1n. Not convinced by the aim so far, Ketchup. 18% LG, having done just 30 points of damage with that weapon. He's barely been able to get a hold of it. And then also the rockets have been questionable at times, whereas Strongsage is landing more of the shots. 400 damage with the LG. Just changed 30. Plus, better control of the major items as well. So Strongsage winning on all fronts by all metrics.
Well, the saving grace could be that it's only 3 minutes down. So if there's any opportunity to clean things up, and if something as obvious as aim, no one's going to know it better than the player in question. But got to clean it up soon, because if your opponent's not having the same level of troubles, well then you are the one that is in trouble. In this case now, pushing down. Whoa, that rocket straight down from above. And that's going to be even worse for poor old cha1n. And trying to escape, but there's not much to get yourself back in there with. The movement's pretty good for it, but he's been able to almost delay the inevitable, you would think, because there's not a lot of health around to collect. And he's still alive, but all this is doing is keeping him low, as now the next set of items is about to spawn. So the Mega goes in favor of Strongsage. He gets the frag at long last, finds out what the spawn's going to be, and then chooses to push forward for heavy. I like that choice. Stay where you are. It might somewhat influence the spawn that makes the next item a lot more viable. Do so now. Your opponent's in a much worse position, and there goes cha1n once again. 6-0 currently for Strongsage.
I think that's particularly impressive given how, quote-unquote, new Strongsage is to the scene, right? To top-level play. Those kinds of decisions where, you really just take a pause, take a break, you stop moving, you just kind of anticipate the spawn, stand in exactly the right spot to have your opponent reappear in the position that you want them to, and only then do you make a move for the item. That takes a lot of insight into the game, and for someone as new as Strongsage, that's pretty impressive.
You have to remember, Strongsage is by all means a newcomer to the world of competitive Quake champions, and as weird as that is to say, it's just, it's not every day a player comes into the scene and starts to play of this caliber. The big element is that Strongsage is competing in as much as possible, as much community activity as there is. If there's a tournament and Strongsage is able to enter, it's likely Strongsage is going to be in it. What that means is you're fighting all kinds of players with all kinds of different play styles, and you are just absorbing this knowledge. You are absorbing this experience every single step of the way. So if you are a player that wants to get on this level, and you have what it takes, it's no wonder Strongsage has gotten so dangerous so quickly.
cha1n just looking outstacked. Strongsage right now has double the damage that cha1n has dealt, which is something you don't see very often at all. cha1n just hasn't really been able to rely on his aim. And oh, ketchup, I just had a damning realization. Remember how I made a comment about cha1n's LG use like 4 minutes ago? It has been unchanged since then. That was the first bit of LG damage that he's done in 4 minutes of play. You gotta be able to do more than that on the map that is corrupted key, but Strongsage has been pressuring him so much, denying access to that LG time and time again. Now finally cha1n's got a hold of it. Finally some of these kills are going his way. Here we go, Mega as well. Heavy up soon.
Looks a little bit like the opposite effect though, because those last few frags that cha1n obtained, in big part denial from Strongsage not being able to get that weapon either. So is this the battle of that center LG room? Is that where the balance of power lies? Now Strongsage has been able to make his way up. Pika in a situation where there's some bonus damage, as that first shot did not manage to take the Pika out. The inject is ready. I feel like cha1n, if he wants to take this fight, he's going to have to dedicate, but it looks like he's holding on to it. Might need it at a more pivotal moment, perhaps you would think near this next item, but he's taken so much machine gun damage, and now Strongsage pushing in towards that heavy, while all at the same time making sure he's in position to dish out even more damage as cha1n comes around here. And this is not the way you have to be able to play. cha1n's doing what he can here to survive and to not concede another one, but you don't have much time anymore. It's 2.5 minutes left to go. And just like that, Strongsage, 7 frags in the lead. It's looking like a done deal, but remember, this is only map 1. But I'm a little bit nervous of map 2, because that scale bearer for Strongsage is really, really scary stuff.
I mean, it's a champion that can make a whole lot of interesting plays. That movement, very interesting, can be very surprising too.
You can put yourself in situations where no one would even dare do it. That's what's scary, because this is something that Strongsage has been able to do. And I do assume it just comes down to preference of using the champions. Who are two champions that I think pro players have said constantly that they just despise fighting against? Clutch was probably the first, and then the moment Scalebearer started to become a bit more useful, Scalebearer became that champion as well. So the two champions that Sage uses, no one likes fighting them, and he's really good with both. I mean, that's, if anything, it makes a very difficult decision to make in the picks and bans, if anything else.
I mean, Strongsage also has a way of getting under people's skin, right? And those champions, they do more than enough just on their own to get people wary. Oh, that's a bad position for cha1n to be caught out in, but at this point, it is over and done. 10 frags in a minute, just not gonna happen. The respawn delay alone ensures that Strongsage wins map 1 of this series.
In very impressive fashion, dominating fashion. Just the perfect blend of hitting a lot of good shots, just tactical aggression, keeping cha1n super far down, denial being really the key for the good chunk of that halfway point of this map. And there's not much else to say, really. This is something that we often see on Corrupted Keep, and if you are someone that is savvy with combat, and Strongsage has clearly shown that when he needs to fight, he can do so with the best of them, that's going to be a good recipe for success for that first map. What we really have to start thinking about now is, how do we think that second map is going to unfold? Because we see a little bit more of the perhaps fundamentals coming out from cha1n with that Ison pick on a map that we've seen cha1n on plenty of times over. That would have been a lovely mid-air to finish the map with, but not quite. It's still going to be a dynamic between two very, very different players. cha1n does like to slow things down if he can. He doesn't need to be all over the place all the time. And a champion on a map that can let you control a good chunk of that map with just the information alone. You're now going up against Strongsage, who is not afraid to look at that brick wall of defense and think, you know what? I think I'm just going to plow right through that because I don't care. And I'm confident I can win that fight anyway. Scalebearer helps you do that, but that doesn't change the confidence that Strongsage has in those situations, right? So we'll find out what happens here.
I was looking at the predictions by chat before this first map started, and there was a pretty large majority favoring Strongsage, and after that performance on map 1, I think few are going to change their mind on that. I feel like indeed Strongsage has champion advantage going into map 2, as you just pointed out. Scalebearer is such a threat in capable hands, and Strongsage's are most definitely capable. And after that first map, yeah, cha1n really just getting out-damaged, out-aimed, and struggling to keep up with Strongsage's damage output. Not sure if I'm gonna see that change on map 2. I don't know, maybe cha1n has something up in his sleeve. He has been preparing more, as far as I know, but Strongsage, clearly a phenomenal opponent, rather.
Here's the thing, though, Flea. The Quake viewership and the lovely people at home tuning into this show as we speak, you know, most Quake fans that have a passion for competitive, you know, they're not just watching the Quake Pro League. There are community tournaments all over the shop in the online realm, and people tune into those. They try and stay up to date with their favorite players and what those results tend to be.
Yeah.
Everyone is well aware of Strongsage's current involvement in playing in most things, and in some of those things Strongsage does extremely well. I think people are just looking at the current data that we have, and we're just looking at the fact that although on a technical level, you know, if we're looking at it just by time alone compared to everyone else, yeah, Strongsage is fairly new in this respect. But with all of the tournaments and all of this competitive matchup experience that Strongsage has just been building, you know, from before last year to now, before the finals last year, where many of us saw Strongsage for the first time, that eagerness has always been around, which has been reflected in community tournament results. So I'm not surprised that people are looking at Strongsage as of recently and thinking, you know what, I'm still not afraid to put my prediction on this player because I think people are just impressed with what they've seen.
Yeah.
This is only the first map. You know, I certainly do not want to talk as if this series is already done. cha1n could absolutely bring this one back. But there's just so much experience at play here that it's hard to ignore in a short space of time.
True. Now, map 2, we're loading in the next arena, a Veil of Nav, and indeed, Ketchup, as you said, Strongsage has been more than compensating for his relatively recent advent on the scene by putting in the effort, and it's really paying off. But again, we're starting off on cha1n's point of view. Mega will be the item that he gets a hold of first. Now both players eyeing that railgun. Strongsage is the one to walk away with it. Good effort from cha1n, but that did not go the way that he wanted to.
The head
fraction
shake
of a
said it all.
second, yeah, I think a fraction of a second too late with that turret, so Strongsage still managed to get through.
The thing is, Flea, the head shake of cha1n said it all, because what other champion in this game allows you to have just a rail in hand, push right into your opponent's face, who's firing rockets at you, hit nothing but close range rails, and still be the one that survives? No one. And that's why, if the clutch doesn't make it and the scale bearer does, you've just traded one problem for another. And I think that's not a bad thing for Strongsage to have in his pocket.
Fully agreed. Now, the game has slowed down a bit after that explosive opener. Oh, cha1n. Reckless. Nearly paying off, but putting himself that close to a raging scale bearer with a wall to his back, that's always going to be an uphill battle. He did manage.
It can challenge the decision making though, Flea, can't it?
Yeah.
Because you have to totally reevaluate what fights you can and can't take just by the matchup alone.
Now the thing, of course, is that, you know, the closer you get to scale, right, the more damage you can negate from that bull rush, because the faster you go, the more momentum he builds up, the more damage he ends up dealing. So being close as he starts using the ability, that's not a bad idea at all, but, you know, cha1n just didn't really have the stack, plus he's still gonna suffer the knockback in a corner. Strongsage definitely had the upper hand there.
And the high ground belongs to Strongsage at the same time. If he's able to keep a focus on these items, I think the next stage might be, you know, are we somehow going to be able to maybe delay the two of these? That's where things are going to get even scarier for cha1n to deal with. Here comes the first entry to this. Looking for a rail, but quite rightly so, and understandable, Strongsage is going to prioritize the armor here. If you have all this armor, and actually, wait. Actually, it looks like cha1n was opting to delay the health there himself. Hasn't taken too much damage in return, so that definitely could have gone worse. But that on its own has created a big enough gap between these two items that this next fight is certainly going to be interesting. Could change the way this map's going to go for the remainder of it, because if Strongsage gets a frag here, a clean one, he can pick up both of these items, which he can't do, because the high ground is obviously more important to him. We can at least trade one item for another, which we have done. How we going? No bull rush.
Those were regrettable misses by the rail from cha1n earlier. He's hitting 12% rail so far against the target the size of scale. Like, he's gotta step that up, because Strongsage was able to just waltz into the room, right? When cha1n was holding down Mega with the railgun, he missed 2 or 3 shots, and Strongsage just kept getting closer and closer and closer, and then before you know it, he's got the upper hand. Almost walked away with a frag too. Now finally, cha1n landing another shot. He needs more than one though, because the stack, those heavies of those tanks, takes some serious effort to whittle them down.
There's one opening. The bull rush does not hit its mark, and that should be a push. Yeah, I would be shocked if cha1n doesn't somehow manage to pull that one off and actually secure it. So, only one frag in the lead now is Strongsage. Strongsage takes some extra time there to pick up those hourglasses, and doing so does trade shorter cooldown for straight up rail damage. cha1n hits now a second one, and this is the start of what he needs. Heavy is this next objective. You know that by jumping down you do risk a rail, but it looks like Strongsage was nowhere to be seen there. So, okay, Flea, this is a good opportunity for cha1n to do something with.
Absolutely. Massive stack advantage. Strongsage just running around the map, hoping to pick up one of those small armors to at least restack a bit. We'll be able to get away with one, unpunished, unchallenged. cha1n now prioritizing the major items, and I think that that's the right call. So much time left to make up that one frag. cha1n now needs to be cautious, because the last thing that he wants to have happen to him is, you know, another bad fight, right? Taken by surprise, Strongsage gets the bull rush, pins him up against the wall, gets the surprising and unexpected frag. So cha1n has to be so careful not to let that happen while continuing to cycle the items and look for an opportunity.
An early push is made, but one that is rather frightening. Looking for the first rail, doesn't hit its mark, unfortunately. Strongsage looking to pick up this next item with enough time to push up top. And, ooh, a nice little rocket there. It's not going to be enough to stop Strongsage, however. And, oh, right round the corner. How did he get round there so quickly? Flea, he gets himself a frag, and he's nice and healthy to keep on pushing. That is the scary, surprising nature of Scalebearer in the right hands.
It sure is. Strongsage's positioning has been sublime so far, right? Just getting control away from cha1n after he had basically max stack, just cleverly keeping him at bay until there were only, what, 7 seconds left before Mega, and then really positioning himself in such a way that he knocks out the room. Perfectly played, perfectly executed by Strongsage. Now, I do like the use of the turret by cha1n, though. I feel like he's hasn't been able to really block that many bull rushes directly, but he very often makes Strongsage reconsider, or to kind of split his attention, have to take a few extra seconds to take down a turret before he can do anything. So I definitely think that he's getting utility out of it. Like here again, right? Strongsage unable to chase, unable to do anything. Let's see what he can do now. Oh, well done by cha1n. See, that's the turret, right? The turret alone allowed him to walk away with heavy, which he immediately gives up to a 100 damage rocket to the face. But still,
it's the
plan was there.
It's the thought that counts. It's still possible to do so, but even if cha1n secures a single frag here, he's going to be presented with a new set of problems as this timer goes down and down. You secure a frag on a heavy champion, they're going to spawn with more stack than most. On a map like this, especially if you spawn near rocket or anything else, maybe even LG, all you can need to obtain a refrag is just one weapon. You know, one weapon and enough stack. And that's something that cha1n has got to always have on the back of his mind is, even if I get a clean frag, the cha1n effect, you know, no pun intended, being able to just chain those frags together, it's going to be really hard in this matchup. The bull rush doesn't really hit anything, but in doing so, cha1n can't really hit his target because he's all over the place.
Even if you're unable to deal damage with the bull rush, sometimes just the quick movement alone can suffice to throw your opponent off guard. With a wrench, a spanner through his aim. Oh, good rocket from Strongsage. Excellent read. cha1n has to retreat. Mega up in just a few seconds. Is Strongsage just gonna give it up to him? I think so. Prioritize heavy instead. cha1n still showing his face. He knows that with 2 minutes left on the clock, he can't afford to just give up these items uncontested. I like what he did there, though. cha1n deliberately delayed Mega by a few seconds. Not a whole lot, maybe 5 seconds or so. But this might be exactly what he needs. This might be his final chance.
That bull rush did not secure a frag, but what it did do was push cha1n miles out of that room, and it just forced him to plan another attack. And that attack takes more time that cha1n sadly does not have. And as long as Strongsage controls at least one of these items, he's going to have so much more fighting chance. The retreating rail doesn't hit its mark, but the important thing is that Strongsage can survive. Probably didn't expect cha1n to immediately drop down there the way he did, but here's the thing. 1 minute and 10 seconds left to go. 3 frags to tie things up, but again, the starting stack. That alone is going to be a huge problem because you know at least 2 more bull rushes are going to be available on this champion, and that's on its own damage reduction. It's being able to escape, slip past, waste time. If a fight happens, it's great for that anyway. And for cha1n, he's going to have to make chase and really get something on the go now, because shortly he is going to run out of time.
Strongsage really just dancing around the map.
Where do you aim, Flea? Where do you aim?
His positioning, again, really good. Oh, that's gonna be it, I feel like.
Yeah, definitely a GG there.
We've seen, I believe it was against Rafa, an incredible comeback from cha1n on this map. But, yeah, 20 seconds, 4 frags. Just not gonna happen, especially with Strongsage's defensive ability. cha1n really doesn't have anything to catch up with him once he does get that speed going, once he does use that bull rush. And that is going to seal the deal already. There's still a final map awaiting us catch up, but this will already be a 2-map win for Strongsage.
A difficult situation for cha1n, I think, before the map even begun. Because I don't like to put too much emphasis on just the champion matchups in this game, although as time has progressed, it is very apparent that it's an important part of the experience, right? It does change matchups. They are 1v1 matchups at the end of the day. But in this specific case, when we're talking about clutch, or we're talking about scale bearer on a map like this, cha1n really had no choice but to pick his poison in that aspect, because you knew you were either going to get clutch on this map or you were going to get scale bearer on this map, because whichever one made it through, Strongsage was going to pick it, because that's the kind of player he is. He has a massive fondness for those two champions, and sometimes in pick and bans, we've seen players ban both of them before if they get the chance. So that was a hard call for cha1n. Would you rather have fought the clutch there, or would you have rather have fought the scale bearer? And it is something you always will just have to consider, because they do not play traditional Quake, and they do not play the game the same as anyone else.
Yeah.
So what even would you do in that situation, Flea?
It's incredibly difficult, yeah. What do you do? I think, you know, cha1n gave his best shot. cha1n was a solid counter pick. He's just, you know, generally a good pick for the map that is Veil of Nav, right? There's plenty of teleporter, there's a bounce pad, so many areas where you can use that turret to get information, to deal damage. Plus, you can also use it to block the scale bearer's path, which he did manage to do several times, but ultimately just wasn't enough to get the win. Now, the final map catch-up, this is the one that both of us did say that cha1n had the best shot of winning, right? Looking at the map, the champion picks, I feel like this can still go in cha1n's favor. Nyx, we know how powerful she is on this map, right? Just look at Killson's performance earlier today. Nyx is incredibly strong on this map. Ghost Walk defensively, offensively. The wall jump gives you so much mobility around the LG, the railgun, center of the map. So many things you can do with it. And on the other hand, yeah, Visor really isn't a meta pick for Awoken, because this is a small map. You should almost always have a pretty good idea of where your opponent is to begin with, and when you do use that piercing sight, it creates that noise, and the smaller the map, the easier it is for your opponent to hear you pop it and to know that that ability is active, so they'll just play around it for the next 5 seconds. So yeah, I feel like Visor is definitely the inferior pick to Nyx.
Here's what I raise you though, Flea. We, in this situation, are very used to looking at things on paper and looking at things through what we've seen before. The one extra element in this is that Strongsage has clearly established that he is a player that kind of ignores what everyone else is doing. So the question is, yes, Strongsage has picked a champion on this map that is certainly not the common pick, but he is not your average player in that sense. He does what he believes works for him based on either practice or maybe even tournament experience. This is why I'm still kind of a believer in this Visor, because if Strongsage has picked it and it works for him, most other things that work for him in Pro League work extremely well. Case in point, clutch.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm still favoring Strongsage in this matchup too. I'm just saying that, you know, if cha1n is gonna secure one map, this is the one to do it. This is the one where on paper, the picks favor him the most. And now he's burned that ability of his. Strongsage is in a good spot, gets the frag. Clever plays from Strongsage as well right there. He could have just jumped straight onto the Mega, which is probably what cha1n was expecting him to do, but instead he just waited And cha1n went right back up on the bounce pad again, probably under the impression that Strongsage would no longer be there, but nope. He was positioned like a sentry, a turret, taking him down and getting the first frag on this map.
This is what frightens me the most. When you see a Visor player save their piercing sight for after the fight and they use it to see the spawn. That is absolutely terrifying. And Strongsage, the kind of player that would do that stuff. The defensive tri-bolts. You know, I'm talking about all this, you know, champion-specific stuff like it's the only thing going. Of course it's not. Strongsage is playing a really, like even there, just so solid. The aim is fantastic. The decision-making is fantastic. But the application for how uniquely he approaches every single champion in a matchup sense, bro, come on! It's stuff that you just don't see a lot, man.
Strongsage has done nearly 4 times as much damage with the railgun alone than cha1n has done with every single weapon combined. 70% railgun accuracy. cha1n, no answer to this whatsoever. Good use of the Ghost Walk. Getting the shot off, immediately using it. Here we go. Now Strongsage is the one who's in trouble.
Whoops.
Yeah, doesn't quite get the jump. This is good for cha1n. Those 2 rails, and then the fumble on the movements might have really opened things up for him. Strongsage still lacking the lightning gun. This is the exact weapon that he would need to take the fight at that range over the Mega. But he will walk away with the heavy. Good rocket jump too.
That Ghost Walk did so much for just disruption, didn't it?
Yeah.
Strongsage was really feeling the movement, you know, like it was free flowing, it was good. Out of nowhere. You almost feel like he's trying to make a read on where the Nyx is going to reappear, and then before you know it, cha1n is somewhere completely different. It messes you up. You try and jump around the end, you fall off, you go down, and just any momentum you were building there is swiftly gone. It's been reset back to the beginning, and now cha1n on the opposite end has a lot more to work from. That alone might be pretty monumental for the rest of this map. It depends on where this fight goes, because again, Strongsage, the damage he has been dishing out so far has been just ridiculous. But cha1n can't give things up for free. He has to make his presence known. Sadly, though, he has just run out of rails, so he's not going to be able to compete at range in this range just yet. The Mega in hand. Armor gone. We know that, of course. Rails just been picked up. cha1n, more ammo. Good. Need that. Now there's the Ghost Walk. Where do we go from here? Aggressive push. Before that, a defensive rocket. Strongsage trying to keep his bases covered every single possible angle.
Heavy about to spawn. Strongsage has the better positioning to make a move on it. Good rocket as well. That is definitely going to hinder cha1n's ability to challenge for this.
Oh, he even knew he was going to try and take the safe approach. Like one step ahead.
I'm surprised that cha1n still went for that, you know, knowing that the Ghost Walk had been used. Right? Maybe he thought that it had just expired, but nope. Strongsage still managed to make some good value out of it.
Sadly, no value from that Ghost Walk, though, as he comes around the corner, he may as well have not Ghost Walked at all. Obviously, cha1n wasn't fully to know that. You can't completely know where your opponent's going to be, but sadly, that has put him out of a Ghost Walk for a considerable amount of time. Now, at this point, you cannot get hit by a single rail. Sadly, that's going to start the beginning of a bad situation now, because cha1n, that one rail has made it so Strongsage aren't really challenged for this heavy, although actually Strongsage wanted to push forward first, opted to go for a rocket jump to get out safely. You've already denied the heavy from your opponent, so we may as well stay alive and try and take this next item, and this is the situation cha1n doesn't want to be in. The Ghost Walk is actually used. Is it going to keep him alive, or is it going to delay the inevitable? Looks like cha1n has been able to escape for now.
Still, Strongsage doing more damage with the railgun alone than cha1n with every weapon put together. His aim has been sublime. He's been spamming a lot of rails, right? 35% railgun accuracy for Strongsage versus 33% on cha1n. It doesn't sound like a big difference, but Strongsage has been firing so many more shots. And he is all too happy to just take a stand and go all in on that LG fight. Confident in his aim and his stack.
Well, as cha1n has so often not been in a position to punish missed rails, it's very likely Strongsage is completely approaching that, you know, you miss every shot you don't take angle. If you're getting loads of damage and you're hitting the rails when they matter the most, and some of them are just, why not go for it? Because he's not going to be able to punish me, and if I land it, I've done all this huge damage. Kind of like that. May as well just go for those shots, and Strongsage confident enough in his execution to not let it get in the way of anything. It's impressive stuff so far. Predictive Rocket just shy of 50 damage on that one. Says to cha1n, I know exactly where you are, sir. You're not getting away with nothing on this map. But while I'm 2-0 up currently, cha1n does not turn around to try and finish that job there. Oh, that rocket. Information above all else, and that's going to prompt a piercing sight. I've been hit by a rocket. This could lead to an opponent chase. I need to know where he is right now. And I've got to say, Flea, an aggressive and extremely combat-heavy use of piercing sight on this map so far, but I kind of feel like that's the plan.
Indeed it is. Now cha1n actually looking really solid. A little bit of a tickle of LG. Oh, more than a tickle right there.
Hello,
Strongsage,
my old friend.
Absolutely, Strongsage.
Fell off the map again.
Into the watery depths of Awoken. And now cha1n, perhaps building some momentum. Good awareness of where his opponent is at. The rail here would be huge, and he gets it. Another one even. There we go. cha1n firing up the engines. Heavy is up, but he's completely ignoring it. He knows that he's got the stack to see this one through. And that's what he wants. He wants to end Strongsage's life right here, right now. Another rail. Make that 4 in a row. That guy's about to spawn, but this should still be a frag. Indeed, Strongsage a second too early, and cha1n, representing Canada, ties it up 3-3.
That's one hell of a way to turn things around. Just momentum on your side, hitting the shots you need to hit, and now you've made it even Stevens with just shy of 2 minutes on the clock left to go. If there's one way you're turning things around, this is kind of one of the best ways it can possibly happen, I suppose. And even to boot, a ghost walk, used aggressively actually. But Strongsage was not around on the Mega, perhaps maybe a little bit too early. I wonder if there was an element of timing there from Strongsage, but either way, cha1n did just eat a rail for his troubles, able to return the favor with a rocket at the very least. And this is a do or die moment for cha1n. cha1n himself has said, no more losing. This is a real turnaround point for him. He wants to start performing better. I know the series has not gone in his favor. It's going to be Strongsage anyway, but a 2-1 and a 3-0, they spell very different stories for a lot of players, especially this late down the line.
Nice rail. cha1n committing to the chase. Still has to be careful though. Strongsage been doing a whole lot of damage of his own. Nice rail. What can cha1n do? Oh, Strongsage kind of baits him up the bounce pad. Like the most important part for cha1n right now is not to rush it. He's got the stack advantage. Oh, and there we go. Good, good. I was a little hesitant to see him peak with the piercing sight up again. But hey, if cha1n is feeling the shots and he figures he can make it work, sure, go for it. Now he's 1 frag up. All he has to do is to stay alive for another 35 seconds, half a minute. And he will have the ghost walk once again.
The existence alone of that ghost walk is going to make this 30 seconds difficult, to say the least, for Strongsage, because he's going to have to find him twice. cha1n, the defensive game being played, actually Strongsage taking some time to prioritize picking up the item. That's kind of the last time he's going to be able to do this. Aggressive with the rail, dropping down. 10 seconds. He put time aside to pick up the heavy. You didn't have time to do that. As now cha1n with a ghost walk in hand is going to use that and say, thank you very much, mate, for giving me the final map in this series. And that is going to mean not as much of a crushing defeat. It's a defeat all the same, but those closing moments. The second I saw Strongsage going for the Mega, I think you could kind of understand. The Heavy did not have time for that, my friend.
The moment he just jumped over the ledge, like it was over, right? That was a misplay on his hands. He had, what, 11 seconds left, plus a ghost walk. Like, he needed to see that one through till the end, no matter how it ended up. He was also using his piercing sight already, so, you know, even if he would have been able to get the Heavy and find cha1n again, then what? He doesn't have the piercing sight. He's got nothing to use against the ghost walk. So he really needed to just commit to that and go all in if there was any chance for him to tie it off. Now, Happy to see cha1n at least get this map win on the book, right? It's exactly what we anticipated, looking at the picks and the bans. Map 1 and 2 for Strongsage, map 3, cha1n had a really good shot, and he seized it too.
He played fantastic in the closing moments as well. That's one real big thing to bring this away, that the timing on the items and the patient play really came out to help him. And just keeping himself composed. He was really the one making the better decisions by the end of it. And there was no rush to push in. You didn't need to force the hand. You had to just deal with the situation as it was. You've got your own utility because you've got plenty of ammo for your weapons. You've got the Ghost Walk ready to go. And you have positional advantage. You know where Strongsage is. You can hear him, you can see him. Everything's working out for you. And he just kept it going. Got a comfortable win right at the end, but still had to mount a comeback really to make that happen.
Yeah.
To put himself in that position. So all in all, an interesting series. A dominant win on the first map there by Strongsage. Vale, the scale bearer prowess came through and really proved to be the biggest hurdle to defeat with Awoken there, cha1n. I think just being the more patient player. Strongsage throughout the entire map had been out damaging cha1n, yet somehow cha1n managed to be just a bit more impactful. And I think he just played a smarter game in that final map.
I agree. I think especially commendable on cha1n's end was just his resilience, right? Because I commented on it multiple times, SketchUp, that Strongsage was dealing more damage with just a railgun than cha1n with everything combined, and that persistent until like what, 5 minutes into the game? And then all of a sudden, if you saw the final statistics, right, the railgun damage in the end was almost tied. So cha1n really ramped it up and played a very, very clever game. Good use of the Ghost Walk, really playing around that piercing side, focusing nicely on securing the weapons, denying railgun at times. Those final few minutes were just really a showcase of what cha1n is capable of and what I hope to see him deliver more moving forward.
Well, I don't know about you folks at home, but I am ready for some featured matchups. Our first of which, and just to remind everyone, all of this is top 4 going head-to-head in some way. Wenger versus Zeneku for our first one after a short break. That bombshell of a matchup is going to commence, so we'll see you in a bit.